And greetings, boys and girls around the world. I'm hoping that many of my subscribers are a little bit brighter than average and can entertain complex thoughts, such as yourself. Appreciate you watching this. And this is going to be a challenge for you to follow, unfortunately. It has to do with John Beale, it has to do with the EPA, it has to do with the communist takeover of the United States and their targeting of our energy supply. We can't drill, we can't mine coal, we can't burn coal, we can't bring in petroleum from Canada, we can't drill in the Gulf or offshore, we can't drill onshore. Why is this? Their excuse in the past was fossil fuels produce carbon dioxide, which dramatically alters the climate and results in catastrophic climate changes, which will flood low-lying areas that are only 5 feet above sea level. But it'll take 100, 200 years to happen. And if you're informed on the subject of climate change, you will understand that the Earth's climate constantly changes. We've just come out of the Little Ice Age about 200 years ago, an unusually cold period, and now we've returned to normal and slightly gone above perhaps normal and then leveled off and perhaps declining in temperature. Obama tried to force cap and trade on us through the legislature, Congress, and he didn't have enough votes. And so he has begun to legislate energy restrictions on a new premise: Mercury. You may know somebody with autism. I personally don't know anybody with autism, and I'm not an expert. I have not studied it, except it is my impression that the cause of autism, a kind of mental retardation, is not understood. It is not clear. To say that mercury from coal-burning power plants causes autism, and that's the basis for Obama's plan to shut down, I would say, as a result of Obama's legislation, which he's not a legislator, keep in mind. He's supposed to enforce existing laws that were enacted by Congress. Obama intends to enforce extreme mercury emissions reductions. Mercury, and now it's no longer carbon dioxide, it's mercury. When the evidence does not support the claim that mercury, which eventually ends up in seafood, which if eaten by pregnant women will result in autism or various forms of mental retardation, there is evidence that mercury can build up in the food chain, and if eaten in large amounts by a pregnant woman, it appears that the mercury does transfer from the mother to the child. What effects this has, we don't know. I wouldn't imagine that they'd be good. But I also believe that these effects are very small, rare. And if this truly was a concern, first of all, we would eliminate mercury from vaccines, because a mercury compound is used in vaccines, some of which are taken by pregnant women. If mercury is the problem, if you wish to reduce mercury exposure to the unborn child in the mother's womb, you would zero in on vaccinations. After having done that, if you thought mercury presented a hazard to prenatal children, you would issue alerts or warnings to people living in an area that you suspected might be contaminated by mercury, warning pregnant mothers not to consume excessive amounts of fish that has not been cleared and determined to be free of mercury, because this may have a negative impact on your child. If you wanted to control mercury poisoning, you would go that route. You would not impose extreme limits on power plants, coal burning power plants, to the extent that at least 10% of them would have to shut down, which is Obama's plan. Isn't it obvious that the target is America's energy? It was never about climate change. It was never about mercury. It was never about clean air. We have the cleanest air in the world. Industrialized, prosperous countries tend to be cleaner than impoverished third world countries. We are cleaner than average. But yet we feel that we must restrict. The thing about CO2 is everybody produces CO2. If we cut back at great expense to ourselves, it's not going to matter. The same with mercury. When mercury goes airborne after it's released in the smoke of a coal burning power plant, it goes all over the world. If we go to great expense to reduce our mercury emissions, it's not going to make any difference, because everybody's mercury is going to settle in the water, in the oceans, and even in our own lakes and rivers. That is not the way to go. If you confront Gina McCarthy with facts like this, she will deny it and she will refuse to answer questions. She will say she relies on advice from real scientists, not lay people such as you or me. She is either very confused, very misled, very brainwashed, or else she is an enemy of the United States of America. John Beale, who recently went to prison for supposedly having stolen undeserved, unearned wages and benefits from the taxpayer, possibly took the fall for a crime that he didn't commit. He committed another crime. He was working. He was not a goof off. He was not sitting at home pretending and conning people. He was conning you and you and me, because he was doing other businesses, I suspect, in his job at the Environmental Protection Agency. He was involved in trade negotiations, which is something you haven't heard of, because Obama has a plan about to be launched in your face soon, and Congress will vote on it without having the least idea what it is. The Pacific Trade Agreement, Trans-Pacific Partnership, abbreviated TPP. I suspect that John Beale was spending a great deal of his time on issues such as that, so-called international work. And I've read his emails. He constantly refers to the I-team, which I suppose means international team. There's a team of people in the Environmental Protection Agency working on international issues involving the U.S. Trade Representative. All right, I told you this would be kind of hard to follow, and I was hoping that you would have your brain plugged in. I am speculating somewhat. I can't swear that what I've said is exactly the truth. It's speculative. And my intention is to give you a heads up that the EPA is not what it appears to be. Obama, of course, is not what he appeared to be. And call me a conspiracy theorist, but I believe in a conspiracy is obvious as hell. It'd be stupid to pretend it doesn't exist because of fear that you'll be labeled a nut. I'm not afraid of being labeled a nut. Just so long as you don't stick the cops on me. I don't care if you laugh at me behind my back or disagree with me, because I'm prepared to defend my opinions.